They don't really care about you as a person outside of your credit score and your reserves. So your down payment, your cash reserves, anything like that. I close these loans without ever batting an eye at your tax returns. Or if you're a business owner, I don't need to see your 1099s. If you're a salary worker, I don't need to see your W-2s or your pay stubs. It's just based on the equity of the asset you're purchasing.
Hello, and welcome back. Now, I know most of you out there know this already, but maybe you don't know, is that getting your first mortgage is actually super easy. Assuming that you have steady income, decent credit score, you can get a mortgage. It's the second property, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, so on and so forth, that gets really challenging, for me anyways, and that's because of something called DTI, debt to income ratio, where basically they take, or a bank takes into account all of your loans, all of your debt, and they compare it to how much income you make, which you can easily see it gets tapped out pretty quickly. Most banks want you under 40%. Now, what gets really bad is for folks like us, me and you, who are entrepreneurs, and we rapidly depreciate. We have a bunch of business write-offs, and we can take our income and we can reduce it all the way down to zero or into negative numbers, which means in the eyes of the bank, we are basically dirt poor, which is not really true, but in terms of the IRS taxes and the banks, we are. And that's a problem that we've had to struggle with for the last decades. I had to struggle with it. So how I overcame it is I had co-signors or investors. But now today, there are new products coming out that are geared towards helping people just like you and me, where we do not need proof of personal income. We do not need tax documents. We do not need a W-2. We do not need any of that, which is really, really nice. And who you saw in the beginning was my new friend and future mortgage broker, Christian, who is actually partnered with David Green over on, a small little YouTube channel called Bigger Pockets. And so what they're doing is that they are changing the face of the mortgage industry, I guess you would say, when it comes to short-term rentals and real estate investing, especially for folks like you and us. And I was just introduced to a new loan product that I want to share with you today that I'm actually going to be using here in the very near future. So what I'm sharing with you today is all the information that I've gathered from Christian. And if you're interested in watching the full hour-long interview where he just drops absolute gems on the short-term real estate market, how it works, equity, cash, all that good stuff, because he himself is very well invested in Airbnb, short-term rentals, and land hacks, is that I will have that interview available inside my Land Hacker program, which is going to be opening up for enrollment here in the next couple of weeks. So go to kaiandrew.com, sign up for the wait list, and I'll reach out to you when we're ready to enroll. So how traditional, normal mortgages works is that the banks are essentially investing in you, and that's why they crawl up your butt and they just want to know and see everything. They want to see your credit score, your bank account, your W-2, tax records, everything, right? It gets really annoying and really cumbersome, especially when you're right at that DTI mark where the banks are kind of like foofy about it. But then on the other side of the coin, there are commercial loans, which when they don't really care so much about the investor entrepreneur, I say that with a little bit of tongue in cheek, obviously they care, but they are more heavily concerned about the asset itself. In this case, it's usually big commercial properties, buildings, apartment complexes, that type of stuff. And the reason why they care more about the asset itself is because it's income producing, literally spitting off tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars each month. And what they do is that they also have a very relatively high down payment, somewhere between 25 to 50% for some of those loans. And so what happens is they care more about the asset instead of the entrepreneur. And then on the residential side, you have the banks where they care only pretty much about the entrepreneur, or I'm sorry, not the entrepreneur, but the borrower. And then they slightly care and just make sure that the home is worth, or the property is worth what it's said to be worth, so they don't completely lose everything. But there's nothing in the middle. And that's where this loan product, which is called a DSCR loan, or debt service coverage ratio loan, comes into play. It meets that gap and it plays on both sides, where you don't need the income, you don't need tax proof, but you do need credit score and you do need capital reserves. But they are focused more on the asset, the income producing asset. In this case, it's a rental, both long-term and short-term. We'll get more on the details here in a little bit. So where this new product really shines is that it fixes that entrepreneurial crux that you and a lot of us have faced, where basically we drop our taxable income as low as possible so we don't have to pay taxes legally. By the way, remember, tax avoidance is good, evasion is bad. We don't have to legally pay taxes, but what that does is our tax return, it shows that we make zero or close to, or actually negative dollars. Like I think this year I might make negative dollars, even though I made money. And what this product does is it comes in and it doesn't care about that. It cares more about me, my credit score, which is good, and then the capital reserves that I have, which is also good. And if I can make the down payment, which I can't. And so if those check all the boxes, now I'm opening up the game and a whole nother level, and I can move fast, because with traditional mortgages, you hit this glass ceiling of what you can borrow and how many properties you can buy. Literally with this product, as you are investing, and if you can come up with a capital, you have a good credit score, you can just do this over and over and over again, almost without limit. That's the great thing. So let's go over some of the key points here. The first key point is the profitability ratio, or the DSCR if you want to go with that official name. But the profitability ratio, all it is you take the fixed period cost of servicing the mortgage or the loan, which is basically principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And then sometimes you have an HOA, but you guys all know you shouldn't be buying property with an HOA because HOAs suck. Sorry, I shouldn't say suck. But those are the fixed period costs. And then you get the property appraised. And if you check the investment property, the appraisal will go out there and they will actually figure out how much that home or that property can rent for in the long-term rental market. Now, let's just take some numbers for example. Let's say that your mortgage, including all the fixed period costs, is $2,000 a month. Let's say that you go and get the property appraised and it is appraised for $2,000 a month, or generating $2,000 a month in long-term rent. That's what the comparables are showing in that market. You now have $2,000, $2,000, put those together, that's a 1-to-1 ratio. You're good. This loan likes it. Now, let's say for some reason the appraisal comes in and it's only at $1,000. Okay, for whatever reason. Don't know why you would be buying a property like that, but let's say that that's what happens. What you can do is, if this is in a high destination area, think of Destin, Florida, Gatlinburg, Joshua Tree, that type of thing. What you can do next is, with the underwriter or with Christian, the mortgage broker, they will be able to look at the comps on Airbnb, and see potentially what can the short-term rental market do. And we all know that short-term rental market is way better than long-term rental. And so let's say that the short-term rental market numbers come back in and that property can make $5,000 a month. $5,000, now what they typically do is they give it a little 25% haircut. So right off the top of my head, what is that? That's gonna be about like $3,750, I think if I'm doing my math right. $3,750 to a $2,000 mortgage, you now have past a 1-to-1 ratio. You're actually closer to like 1.5. So you meet the requirement and now they can secure the loan. So that's the profitability ratio that we need to understand. We want to see at first if the long-term rental rate will meet the debt servicing, and if the long-term rental rate doesn't, we want to look at the short-term rental rate. Now, there's also two other things that they're going to be looking into when it comes to DSCR loans. They're going to look at your experience as an entrepreneur in real estate investing or short-term rentals, and they're also going to look at the strength of the location. So if you're buying in the middle of nowhere, Montana, where the closest Airbnb is like 50 miles away, and you've never owned a home before, and you've never invested in real estate, and you've never managed a short-term rental, okay, this loan is going to be kind of tough, and they probably won't loan to you. However, if you have some experience in real estate and you're buying in a place, let's say Gatlinburg or Destin, Florida, this loan becomes a lot more attractive. And these investors and these lenders are really willing to put money into those areas because they know they are so marketable and they've done so well. And especially in somebody who has some experience in this field. And what that does, not only helps you secure the loan, but it gives you the best rate and the best down payment possible. And speaking of down payment, it can be as low as 15%. When all those check boxes are checked off, it can be as low as 15% without PMI, which is mortgage insurance, which is huge, up to 25%. So with most folks, I say budget 20 to 25%. If you're experienced and you're buying in a really good area, consider 15%. Now, the really cool thing about this product that I really like is that it's a fixed interest rate over 30 years. That is amazing. Usually stuff like this for commercial or anything like that, it's not a 30-year fix. It's usually 5, 7, 10 years, maybe 20 years. But it has very high interest rate, a relatively high interest rate, and it's a short term. This is over a 30-year fixed, and then get this, they even are going to start offering a 40-year fixed. And then that's not all. They also offer an interest only. Now, for 95% of us out there, I would not advise interest only. But for the folks out there who understand finances and understand the discipline of financing or how to operate and use cash flows, interest only is a brilliant way of leveraging your money a second way or a second time, because you're not spending all this extra money towards principal. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter because you're building equity no matter what. If you're just paying interest, you can actually increase the ratio because you're lowering your debt service and you're keeping that $2,000 or $5,000 that you're making that is appraised the same. So your ratio actually goes up, which is really good. So usually the interest only is at 10 years. And at 10 years, you can refinance it, you can sell it, whatever you want to do. But usually at that point in time, it switches over to basically a 20-year fixed mortgage and it's amortized over the next 20 years. Again, all these options are just phenomenal and it's like designed exactly for people like you and I. And that's why I'm so excited about it, because I wish that this product was out when I was in my 20s, my early 20s, and I started this 15, 16 years ago. I would have dozens of properties by the time that I was 30, but I couldn't. I had to find co-signors and I had to do things on my own because this product was not available at the time. And now it is. And I want to help you, and I want this to help you get to your investment and net worth goals. And the last thing I want to say about this is that Christian and his team can actually work pretty dang fast on this. You can get pre-approved within 24 hours. I know this sounds like kind of like a shill, or I'm like hucking Christian, or I'm just selling Christian, which doesn't sound good either. But you can actually get pre-approved in 24 hours, and then this can close in as soon as 2 to 4 weeks, assuming when you get the appraisal done. It's a really cool product that's geared towards entrepreneurs and investors, and it's something that I really highly recommend that you look into, especially if you're looking into short-term rental and you're tired of dealing with banks like Wells Fargo and Chase who have no flexibility. Again, I'm super excited to start working with Christian. I'm gonna be a client or a customer of his very, very soon. We just met not too long ago. Actually met him through Rob. And if you're interested in the full interview, which is I think is just about an hour long, where we talk about the market, we talk about the loan, we talk about all the ins and outs and the details, it's gonna be available for free, obviously, to all of my students in the Land Hacker program, which will be released soon. So make sure that you sign up for the wait list, and you'll get an email from me when we start enrollment, and then you can jump into all the classes, you can jump into the webinar, all the workshops, all that good stuff before we launch, which is going to be hopefully, fingers crossed, by March, okay? No promises yet, but hopefully by March. Like this video, subscribe, as always, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.